the work that God is doing, the work that he created us for, and he invited us to work with him was just like you said, like to make things beautiful, to make things better, to bring life, to contribute, to create. And you use this reference that I loved about, and it fits really well with our real estate businesses. You say that God is the contractor and we're subcontractors. And God invited us, he basically subbed us out and invited us to go into work with him and do his work. But we messed something up along the way.
Yeah. A massive part there. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So go on. Sorry, Stu, keep going,
well,
dude.
and I just love the analogy continues of he invited these subcontractors in to go do the work, and then we went and just demolished it all instead of continuing to build it out.
Right.
So like, what happened there?
That's good. Yeah. So basically what we're doing there is we're trying to put the language that we find in the story of Genesis 1, 2, and 3 into a kind of another picture. You've heard the story, God created everything, and then he created people, and then he said to them, hey, you can eat from any tree of the garden, but don't eat from this one, otherwise it'll bring death. And then the people, Adam and Eve, ate from that tree, and that's kind of the beginning of this huge brokenness that exists in the world today. And to put it another way, what was taking place is that God was creating life, or he created life, and he was bringing flourishing in the world. And I think, I'm reading between the lines here, by the way, I don't think you see this clearly, but go back into Genesis 1 and 2 at some point if you're a listener and check it out. But I think what we see, the big idea is God was loving what he was doing. And I think he wanted to share it. And I think that's the reason, because if God's ruling so well, then why does he create people to rule? And the only reason I can think of is because he loved it so much. He wanted to enjoy it. I want some other people to enjoy it with him. So he's created the galaxies, he's created the animals, he's created all these beautiful, plants and vegetables and everything. And I think he's gone, hey, let's involve some people in this. But then, so he creates people to join him in the work of bringing life and bringing it abundantly, but instead they disobey him and bring death. And death, you can think of death as, it's not just the act of dying. It's not just the act of, falling over at the end of your life dead. There's all of these symptoms of death as well. So there's this distance we feel from God, a distance we feel from one another, sometimes fighting, divorce, racism, war. All of these things are part of that death as well. And then there's this distance that we feel from nature that wasn't supposed to be there as well. Things like, natural disasters of all kinds. There's, drought, there's flood, there's tsunamis. All of these things are all part of what the Bible is talking about when it talks about death. And so God said, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, otherwise there will be death. You will die. And so humans, instead of listening to God, were like, oh, wait, maybe we could be as powerful as God if we would just eat from this fruit, right? And the idea is God created us. What's taking place there is this idea that God really created us to be his subcontractors. He was bringing life, he was bringing it abundantly, and he's in the middle of building this beautiful thing, and he invites people to join him in the subcontracting process. And instead, we just took sledgehammers and started swinging at the frame and breaking the windows and ruining the roof and the ceiling, because that's what happened. And that's what we still do at the very core of who we are. The very natural bias of every human is not to build, but to tear down. And that's why by the time you're 40 or 50, you don't have very many friends anymore. That's why by the time you're 40 or 50, you're struggling with your relationship, or you have at some point with your wife or your girlfriend, or these significant, relationships. It's why it's not natural to be friendly with your parents, and why there's so much tension all the time between us, is because right in our DNA from the beginning, we chose to reject the life that God wanted us to do. And right at the beginning, we started instead choosing to break down all these beautiful things. And that's why all these terrible other disasters and just kind of get out of control in the world as well. All of these things that are the death that the Bible talks about. So we've become the wreckers instead of the builders.
But
Yeah,
he keeps on inviting us back.
Well, that is crazy, isn't it? Yeah, he doesn't. God didn't just throw the whole human experiment in the trash can.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing. That's what I would have done, dude. When
Right.
my pen stops working, I don't go, you know what? I bet you if I put some time into this, I could get it working again. I'm like, you know what else? I'm going to throw in the trash. I'm going to buy a new one. And but God does this amazing thing. After man brings curse and death into the world, he pursues humanity and says, I know. I'm going to bring you blessing. He does that through a guy named Abram in the Old Testament. God says, I'm going to bless the whole world through you. He does that again and later on. He does it time and time again. But there's this whole story that unfolds where man keeps turning their back on God, but God says, I'm going to invite you in, Abram, and a nation that comes out of you called Israel, and then a king that comes out of Israel named David. And God makes all these promises that there's someone's coming who's going to fix this big problem that's existed from the beginning. God keeps going, hey, I know you keep buggering everything up. I know you keep ruining everything, but why don't you come back and join me and join the work that I created you for?